Welcome Diamond subscribers to Biz Jet TV, and today's episode we're going to be talking about the global XRS. We're going to be looking at a spreadsheet to look at the exact operating cost for around about 600 hours a year. Now of course, you know, these can vary. We need to get really specific. This is just one that I did for a client a while back, and so we can have a look at this and see, you know, just give you an idea of how much it costs to operate one of these aircraft, you know, the real numbers. Now, the Global XRS is built by Bombardier. It's a 6,000 nautical mile airplane, so get you LA to London direct. It's got a wide cabin. A lot of people like it because of the cabin size. It's bigger than the G550 and the Falcon 7X, which are its main competitors. And this is why people tend to like the Global, because of the space in the cabin, which is nice. Now the XRS, it's the older version of the the Global 6000. Now they call it Global 6500. You can get these on the market today anywhere from about $14 to $20 million. And they're pretty good buy. You just have to be careful on the maintenance. They don't age as well as the Gulfstreams. And I'll be very honest and upfront with you that if you're looking at buying an older aeroplane, Gulfstream is more reliable than a Global. But if we look at the history of the aeroplane, how many owners it's had, how it's been flown, the maintenance is done, and you hire good maintenance crew and good pilots to fly it, any time a snag happens, they'll know how to work around it. But certainly, the comfort of the cabin is something that a lot of people like. But let's get into the spreadsheet, because this is why you're here. You want to find out exactly how much this thing is. So this is calculated on 600 hours flying a year. So based on 600 hours, what we did here for this client is we calculated that we're going to have 4 pilots. So at the top here, item number 6, you can see the management contract fee at $300 per hour. That's how much it usually costs. You pay a management company to manage the aircraft for you. We've got a lead captain. There's always a lead captain on an airplane, and he or she basically is like the chief pilot, and they will manage the roster and the maintenance and everything. They'll be your go-to for the airplane. Anything to do with the airplane, the maintenance, and that, the lead captain will be in charge. Which is why, as you can see, he or she will be paid more money than the other 2 captains. Now, what we've done here with 4 pilots, we've got 3 captains and 1 senior first officer. Some people like to operate with 4 captains. It just gives you a bit more flexibility. But here, for cost purposes, we threw in a senior first officer, which we're hoping to promote to captain after about a year. But again, this is very specific. It depends on what you're looking at. These are the salaries. As you can see, 260,000 for the lead captain, then 216 for the other 2 captains, 144,000 for the first officer. Then we've got a director of maintenance, and he basically oversees the maintenance of the aircraft, an aircraft maintenance technician as well. Now that could be the same person, or you could have 2 different people. And then we've got 2 flight attendants, items 13 and 14. Basically, the way this client works is they have 1 set of crew, which is 2 pilots and 1 flight attendant, spend 3 weeks with the aircraft, and then the crew go home for 3 weeks and the other crew come out. And that's how the rotation works. The airplane's moving around the world all the time, and so consequently this is how we've crewed this airplane. We do have some other people we can call on from time to time if anybody gets sick, and that's that. The per diem is money that they get paid per day. It's as you can see there, we put $116, so $116 a day. And that's for, they get their hotel paid for with breakfast included. This is for lunch and dinner, and if they need any dry cleaning or whatever, that's what that money covers basically. And that's quite a good figure for anywhere in the world. Of course, if you're staying in Tokyo, you're going to a restaurant in Tokyo, it's going to be a bit more expensive than if you're staying in downtown Cleveland, for example. Flight crew training. This is important, because every year the crew have to go for training, the pilots and the flight attendants, and they'll be doing 2, we worked it out here for this client, 2 training sessions per year. That's usually a 3 or 4 day event, and simulators from ground school. Some of the ground school is done remotely sometimes, and then the simulator, they have to travel to the simulator center, depending on which center we're using, and they will be on the ground doing that for about a week, all in, between travel time and everything. Flight attendant training as well, that has to be done on an annual basis. Crew visas, we put Russian, Indian and Chinese visa, because this airplane is going in and out those places as well. HOTAC is the hotel and accommodation, transport and that. for the crew and crew travel is when we're repositioning the crew. So when the airplane lands, let's say in Hong Kong, and they have to swap the crew, the other crew will be flown out from wherever they live to the airplane. The other crew will be flown home. So that's what we've got in there for crew travel, which as you can see is quite an expense. Bombardier manuals, Smart Fix Skybook, item 21. These are manuals for the aircraft, and that's really important. The manuals are always evolving on these airplanes as snags are discovered, problems happen, incidents happen. Bombardier go back, and this is every manufacturer does this, and they change things, they change procedures and whatever. They add things, they take things off, they rewrite procedures and whatnot. And so you can constantly get in these updates, and the crew have to be updated on the latest versions of these things. Then we got MX, which stands for maintenance, camo, annual. These are the annual checks and that. And then we've got the camp, which is the basic, day-to-day maintenance, maintenance control. We've got Rolls-Royce corporate care for the engine program. Having your airplane on an engine program is important. It's basically like an insurance policy. You're paying so much every hour and every month. And when you have to go, the engines have to go for overhaul, that money has been set aside to do that. And so that's what's done. So you're paying Rolls-Royce basically this corporate care, and if anything goes wrong with the engines, it's covered. So it's an insurance policy by Rolls-Royce for the engines. Maintenance training, just like the pilots and the flight attendants, the maintenance people need to have their training every year. Insurance, that's important. So that's all done. Certification, that's another important thing. Different certifications that are required. Admin fees, accounting, audit, lawyers, bank charges, all this kind of thing to keep the airplane flying. There's a lot of paperwork involved, so you do need somebody back office taking care of all that and paying, the pilots, paying insurance, paying the maintenance, and doing all that kind of stuff, and booking flights for the crew to go home or to position to the aircraft. Crew licenses, renewals, medicals, uniforms, all those things have to be paid for as well. A crew company insurance, that's important for the crew, and then their phones, of course. And that brings out the total operating costs to $8,339 per hour. Now we go into the direct operating costs. Maintenance defect based estimate. So you cater for that. You put $300 and something away per hour in case any of that happens. Fuel burn, the fuel price here is set at $8 per gallon. That's what it currently is at on average. Some places it's more, some places it's less. And this again depends on your crew. You want good crew to select the right FBOs to go to, look at the fuel price, see if they can tanker also fuel. Tankering fuel basically means that you won't be taking all the fuel for the flight. You'll be taking extra fuel, because at that particular airport, fuel is very cheap. It's cheaper than where you're going, and so you take the extra fuel, and even though that's extra weight, it still balances out that you're going to save money. So that's called tankering. So you want your pilots to be able to work those things out to save fuel. And there's also piloting techniques that like continuous descent approaches, which allow you to save fuel as well. Even 150 to 200 kilos per sector you can save on by piloting the airplane in a certain way. So saving on fuel is important, and acquiring the fuel, and also on piloting technique you can do that. Carbon offset, we haven't put anything in there at the moment. Handling and landing fees, that's an average, and we looked at the airports that this client will be going in and out of, and we worked out that was the number. Hangar and parking, again, depends where you're going. So we worked out where they're going to be going, and so we rang round to find out how much that was going to cost for this particular aircraft. Aircraft cleaning, same thing. Flight planning, company we're using is Signum, so they're doing flight operations and flight planning, and that's another thing which takes a while to do. And then the flight plans get sent to the pilots, and then they load them into the computer on the aircraft, and they print them off, and and off you go. FMS chart database, this is the computer management system that needs to be updated continuously, so there's a subscription for that. Jepson is the charts, the approach charts for the airports. That's also all electronic, and that's updated on the pilots' iPads and also on the aircraft. Wi-Fi SATCOM direct, so Wi-Fi on the airplane, the SATCOM, which is the Wi-Fi which covers the whole globe, the satellite Wi-Fi. That's quite expensive. And then of course catering, and catering, you can do the catering with the local caterer at the airport, or you can train your flight attendants to go to local Costco's, Whole Foods, or restaurants and buy the food, and again, flight attendants, usually talking to the passengers or the lead passenger, finding out what they want to eat, and then finding the right places. If you've got good flight attendants that have got their list of places they go to, then you know they'll be able to save you money on the catering as well. And then passenger limo transport, again, that will depend where you're at, and that all adds up to $5,425 an hour. You add that to the total operating costs, and that brings you out to $13,764 per hour. And overall, that's just almost $8.3 million to fly 600 hours a year. And that's all in, everything. So bear in mind, depending on where you live, you can offset that tax-wise. So that's also another thing to consider, the taxation of where the aircraft's being registered. Because, you know, if you can write off the whole $8.3 million, why not, plus the acquisition of the aircraft. But this is overall the numbers, and you know, if you want to get on a Zoom call, we can get specific and change some of these for your criteria, and then I can send you over the spreadsheet so you've got it. And yeah, so reach out to me if you want one of these done specifically for your operation, and this is done on the global XRS. We can do this for any aircraft. And remember to subscribe to Biz Jet TV, and if you particularly like this one, give me a super thanks down below and click on that. And that's all from me on this episode of Biz Jet TV, and check out this other video which I'm sure you'll find interesting. And that's all from me, and I'll see you on the next one.